This is Retrace, segment number 19. It's Monday, October 10th, 2022. Retrace is about what's going on out there. We're back after a long hiatus. Go check out Margin for an explanation. The main point today is NEFA. Nature is not faffing around. Faffing? I don't know if a lot of Americans know that word. Nature is not effing around. Nature is not effing around. I think that if this podcast is going to have a single overarching message, that is what it should be. Okay. Last segment, one of the things that we talked about was turning the hypotheses into a pile of numbers, trying to take these 11, it was 11 at the time, now it's like more, these hypotheses about what's going on out there in the world, current history, what are the things that are going to be written about in history books or the equivalent in the future that are happening right now. Can we turn those hypotheses into, or represent them as a pile of numbers? And then I, without publishing it, started toying with the idea of treating that pile of numbers as a vector. My linear algebra is not good, but I know enough to know that a pile of numbers is, a vector. And maybe if we sort of, but it's hard. It's not like the hypotheses as I've stated them don't lend themselves easily to being represented by vectors, needless to say. Okay, so that's one way of trying to simplify the hypotheses. I know this is hard to follow. I know it's hard to follow. Like the way that I think about this is, it's like pouring concrete for a foundation. So it's boring to watch that. It's boring to look at the foundation of a house or a building. But if you don't get the foundation right, as they say, doesn't matter what else you do. Or conversely, if a house has a good foundation, was it in the money pit? Yeah, that's in the money pit. Money pit. Jump over to Margin and find out whether this business isn't a money pit. But all right, let's reel it in. That's what this stuff. I know the hypotheses. Even just using the word hypotheses, it's going to lose people. I know no one's going to listen to this. I know if people tune in, they're going to bounce off this. It doesn't matter. It has to be here. It has to go this way in the beginning. Otherwise, we're not going to have the foundations to move forward with what's going on out there and what Retraice is trying to do. Pile of numbers represented as a vector, probably not. What's another way of simplifying having all these hypotheses? We started with 11. How do you tie them all together? It can't just be a list, right? It can't just be a list. Is there someone? We're human beings. We're finite. We can't think about a big pile of numbers or a big pile of hypotheses that are not represented as numbers. What I came up with, and I put this on the blog. This is, to talk about losing people. I'm going to now read you a sentence that has multiple clauses. Just too many. But try and just stay with me to the end of this. This is a way that maybe there's like one hypothesis that sort of entails all the others for our era, not for like all time, but if you're asking the question, what's going on out there, maybe there's one hypothesis that sort of wraps up all the other ones. If there is, maybe it's this one. Computers, which are chain reaction controllers and which make AI handling of information possible, and which are inherently vulnerable to hacking, are causing some humans to know others better than they know themselves, and thereby to control them, though computer-controlled machinery could take control if the motivation to control, which humans have, were to occur naturally or by design in the chain reactions. I'm not going to dig into that. I'm not going to unpack that. It's there. It's published in written form. We'll deal with it more later. We're trying to get the message across or sort of introduce the idea today that nature is not effing around. And by nature, I mean the physicists or the cosmologists' nature. Religious people might call it God, and I know that religious people don't mean, when they say God, they don't mean what I mean when I say nature, but it's the closest sort of parallel or overlap. We're talking about the really big something in the world, and I'm saying that something is not effing around. We are in something here. And it's very, very serious. 3 little acronyms, GNR, GCR, and BNR. GNR, GCR, BNR. GNR stands for genetics, nanotech, and robotics. Got that from Ray Kurzweil's Singularity is Near. GCR stands for Global Catastrophic Risks, which is the title of the Nick Bostrom and something Cirkovic, what was his first name? I don't know. Book that collected a bunch of essays on global catastrophic risks. I think it was 2008. And Kurzweil's was like 2004, 2005. BNR is sort of a stand-in for politics. It's like most political contests, not all of them, most contests of any sort. I think it's mostly blue versus red. Think about the teams. I mean, there are green and yellow teams, I know, and political parties, but it's mostly blue and red. It's mostly blood and water. Flip those, water and blood. Water is the blue, blood is the red. Both of them are vital in the truest sense of the word vital, like of life or necessary to life. Just see if you notice that. I can't prove that to you. I won't be able to put together an argument that most of these contests that we care about are blue and red. But that's the politics. That's where the rubber meets the road. It doesn't matter what we write in books. It doesn't matter what people write in books, no matter how good those books. It doesn't matter what we say to each other on podcasts, or in conversations. What matters is what we do, and not everything we do, but only a certain subset of the things that we do. Maybe that subset is perfectly coterminous, is something roughly approximating what we think of as politics. And if we think about politics, we're usually in a red team versus blue team situation. There are purple teams, there are yellow, green, I know, but it's usually red and blue and red. Nature isn't effing around with genetics. Those 3 technologies or groups of technology, genetics, nanotech, and robotics. Nature is not effing around with global catastrophic risks, which encompass technological risks, and other risks of totalitarianism and direct natural catastrophes that have absolutely no human attribution. Excuse me. Nature's not effing around. And so what we do about it, that's the blue and red. Okay. That's all I wanted to get across. It's I know this stuff is hard to follow. It's not easy. But it's not going to keep, these are frameworks, or this is trying to be some sort of framework for thinking about what's going on out there. I'm not getting emotional, but it sure sounds like it. My voice is dry. I need water. I need blue. But I can feel that I need it in my blood, in the red. That was not great, but, not bad. No, maybe bad. Okay, one last thing. What's going on out there? It matters. It really matters. But it mostly matters to people in the, ourselves and people in the future. So just take it at the personal level. Like you're talking to somebody important to you, or important, like as a person, or to you, or in a situation that's important to you. You think you know what's going on in their head. They think that they know what's going on in yours, or they know enough of what they need to know. And then you get feedback, and you get cues, and all these things that sort of confirm or disconfirm what you think, and you sort of try and correct if there's evidence that something's not lined up between what's in your head and what's going on in the world. And then the conversation's over. Let's say it was a single conversation, or a series of conversations, or a week. And okay, it was important. Whatever. But some of those interactions, some of those periods of time in the life of a person, or the life of a civilization, or the life of a country, they matter way more than others. And it's not obvious at the time. I mean, how many, historical perspectives look back on a particular instance of, or some sort of incident, and go on and on and on about the significance of it. But nobody knew at the time. I mean, maybe with the exception of like the Trinity explosion and one or two other things. It's not obvious. But for the people involved at the time, I should be giving a concrete example, but I can't. Like the one that I'm thinking of is just too personal. It wouldn't make sense. What is a concrete example? I don't know. Just imagine yourself. Think of something that you still think about that happened 10 years ago. And no, you need a broader category than that. You need to find a thing that you got wrong. That's what I'm getting at here. It only becomes obvious how much it matters to know what's going on out there when, it really becomes obvious when you get it wrong. When you get it right, you can sort of notice if you look back and reflect in quiet confidence or not so quiet confidence. Man, I really killed it, That's fine. But man, when you get it wrong, and it has consequences that stay with you for years and years and years, go back and look at that and ask yourself, did you know what was going on out there? In that situation? Did you know what was going on? If you did, and it still went wrong, or what was the moment where what you knew was wrong that led you to be in a situation? I don't know if I've convinced you, but I think I will eventually. That this stuff matters a lot, and that it's hard to explain. I mean, it's everything. Like you think you know what's going on around you, and it's so hard to accept how profoundly wrong we can be. It helps to keep records. It helps to gather evidence. Because, you're directly experiencing things in the moment. But once the moment's gone, what do? You only have evidence. Or maybe you have no evidence. I mean, memory is inclusive. I mean, memory is not reliable. It's not unreliable, but it's not strictly reliable. Artifacts, if correctly interpreted or comprehensible, can be far more reliable than memory. I don't know, man. The fog of life is why I gotta set this down. This is just, it's too hard to convey. I thought it would come across, and maybe it has, but I don't think it has. If you go back to the hypotheses, just take any one of them and imagine how wrong we might be about them now. And if you can imagine a particular of how we're wrong about them, what is that going to mean to people in 10 years? What is it going to mean to you in 10 years? China. What if you're wrong about, what if everyone's wrong about China? What if everyone's wrong about artificial intelligence? What if everyone's wrong about our adaptation to the environment? What if everyone's wrong about space? What if everyone's wrong? What if no one knows just how seriously huge the wild card will be, or already is? It might have already started some sort of snowball effect. The wild card. What is the wild card? I don't know. It's going to be out there. What if we don't know what's going on with those things right now? The future is going to, our future selves, the future selves of others are going to care. It's going to matter a lot to them what we did or didn't know about what was going on right now. I'll leave it at that. I don't have any follow-ups or amendments or corrections to the last segment at this point. References from this segment, which there were none. Maybe. They'll be in the show notes. The full PDF notes will be at retraice.com, retraice.com. This is Retraice segment number 19, signing off.